buying retro video games in 2025 is not a cut and dry process. There's no one size fits all method for acquiring retro video games, especially if you're going for video games in a complete in box condition or if you're looking for certain types of retro video games. Now, recently I put out a YouTube short basically stating that I would not recommend buying retro video games off of Amazon. And I guess because it's a short, there wasn't enough context in that video to explain why I was saying that and give the right way or the alternate methods for picking up retro video games. So I wanted to make a quick, comprehensive video for 2025. I feel like I've done one of these in the past, but I figured I'd make one again. And towards the end, I'll give you probably the best piece of advice that I could give, especially for collecting retro video games in this day and age. So I really just kind of, before I talk about the different methods or different ways that you can build a retro game collection, I want to kind of establish the landscape that we're currently in. So we are 5 years post 2020, post 5 years post the uh, boom, the surge in retro game prices that was caused due to lockdowns and people being home and everyone wanting to relive their childhood, gaming experiences and everyone buying retro video games. And during that time, not only were your traditional retro video game enthusiasts buying retro games, everyone was buying retro games. People who hadn't thought about Nintendo in 30 years were now all of a sudden on eBay, on Amazon saying, man, I'd love to get my hands on a Nintendo so I can play Nintendo again. And so when that happened, there was a humongous surge in demand for retro video games. It was very hyped, and certain consoles saw more attention than others. What this then created was kind of like this secondhand or secondary market for resellers who completely ravaged the retro video game scene. And because of all of the attention, not only has the increase in retro game prices been felt at the reseller level or at the eBay and Mercari level, it's now trickled down to established secondhand stores like your Goodwills, most thrift stores. Almost anywhere that sells retro video games knows that retro video games have value. And so before they put them up for sale, most established places are looking up the prices for the games that they're going to sell, and they're pricing them accordingly. So outside of yard sales and garage sales or just personal, maybe Facebook Marketplace deals, which we'll talk about Facebook Marketplace in a minute. But outside of like any like in-person non-formal purchases, like outside of that, everywhere you go is pretty much going to be priced at market value for retro video games at this stage of the game. So don't expect to be able to go into most stores and find a game for dirt cheap. Will you catch some stores slipping? Yes. Will you catch a thrift store that maybe makes a mistake and incorrectly prices a retro game? Sure, that happens from time to time still. But 8 times out of 10, when you go game hunting, you're not really going to see that. You're going to see most games priced at their regular price. So that's if you're just going to any type of established store or anything like that. Now you do have the reseller market, the like the in-person, like the flea markets, yard sales. Like flea markets and yard sales are probably the last, I would say, option for finding games at their lowest prices. Yard sales in particular, because there is a good chance that you can still go to a yard sale and find retro video games for a really cheap price, because the people that are selling the games probably either A, don't know the value of the games, or B, they know but they just don't care. They're looking to create space in their home. Maybe they want to get rid of some stuff and they're just ready to let the game go. And so they're not going to stand there and haggle you. They'll take your first and best offer, and a lot of times they'll just say yeah to that and keep it pushing. So you still have the yard sales. When it comes to swap meets in my opinion are like where yard sales and like thrift stores meet sometimes, because you don't get deals as cheap as a yard sale deal would be at a swap meet, but they're not quite as expensive as like most thrift stores or pawn shops and things like that, because usually you're dealing with like an individual seller. They can kind of make the decision on their own, whether to discount the game for you or not, and you're just really just more negotiating at that point in like a one-on-one format. So just to kind of recap so far, what we have our established locations for retro game stores, which would be your mom and pop shops, retro game stores, Goodwills, thrift stores, and pawn shops. You have your in-person dealings, whether it be swap meet, whether it be a flea market, or a yard sale. And then you have your online secondary markets like your eBays, your Mercaris, and things of that nature. Now, you do have a couple other avenues. You obviously have the video game conventions that you can go to. A lot of times, this is going to be one of the most expensive ways to get retro games, but you will probably find games that you wouldn't ordinarily see anywhere else at a retro gaming convention. So I would only really go to a retro gaming convention to buy retro games if you were looking for like a one-to-one game, or a game that you never find in the wild, or a game that you haven't been able to source online on any of the online sites. That might be a good place for you, with like going to a game convention. That is another path. And I guess along the lines of conventions, you also have like these like little miniature game exchanges. A lot of times, if you look in your area, your local mom and pop shop might do like a game exchange event where they allow local collectors to come and maybe set up a small table, and you're able to just kind of wheel and deal with collectors in your local area. That's also another option for you as well. That's just kind of like a mini version of a convention, in my opinion. So you do have that. Then you have the final boss, in my opinion, which is online meetup forums such as Facebook Marketplace, or I know sometimes people are able to negotiate deals through like Instagram. I've negotiated deals through Instagram as well, and those are a little bit different because usually someone has a posting online, and it's not like a eBay where you can just go in and purchase it and they mail it to you. Usually this is just where they're posting it, and then the actual deal has to be done in person. So it's kind of like a half online, half in person type of transaction, where you're usually able to look at the stuff, negotiate on a price. Once you settle on a price, then you're able to coordinate a time to meet and exchange cash for video games. Facebook Marketplace is tricky these days. Most sellers on Facebook Marketplace do have a good understanding of what their games are worth. A lot of times you're able to catch deals when you just, like, if a family, if a mom or a dad is just selling a bunch of stuff because they're trying to move and they find a bunch of video games, maybe they'll throw them on Facebook Marketplace for way below market value. And a lot of times that might be something that you could take advantage of. The only thing with that is that there are a considerable number of collectors and video game hunters out there who know that this can happen from time to time, and so they literally live online. Like, if they're not out video game hunting, they're literally refreshing their local Facebook Marketplace pages, refreshing, just waiting to catch a listing of someone who's slipping. And there's usually people that are just on top of it day and night. And when someone does post something that's way below market value, now you're in a situation where you're having to compete with other buyers. You're having to compete with people who are going to bid the price up to whatever their limit is to get the game. So, and a lot of times it's usually like a first come, first serve, or whatever the case may be. So Facebook Marketplace, Instagram, those types of forums are pretty tricky because, like I said, they're a half online transaction, half in-person meetup to close the deal, and that can get a little bit murky from time to time. Now, having said all of that and having laid the landscape out for you, what is the best path for you to purchase? Oh, sorry, before I even say this. And then there's Amazon. I forgot to say that. There's always Amazon, right? So Amazon is, and which in my opinion is the worst way to purchase retro video games. Now, this is coming from a person who's been buying retro video games for a long time. I know what to look for in terms of whether a game is fake or not. I have the tools to be able to examine if a game is fake or not. I know how to open games up, look at them. I can tell just from cover art, things like that. I know how to spot a fake video game because I've been collecting for quite some time. So to me, in my opinion, Amazon.com is the worst place. Personally, objectively, Amazon is probably going to be the worst place to buy video games from a pricing perspective. It will be, without a doubt, the most expensive place to purchase most video games. Most retro games, I should say. Usually you can find good deals on certain Switch games, no doubt. Like you could definitely buy Switch games, PS4 games, PS5 games. You'll be able to catch a deal from Amazon on stuff like that. But when it comes to retro games, typically it will be the most expensive place to purchase video games. Now having gotten all that out of the way, what is the best route for you to build a retro video game collection? Well, that depends on a few things. One, how long have you been collecting? What is your general knowledge of retro video games? Do you have a general knowledge of the market? Do you know what the range is for what certain games should be? Are you familiar with what types of games would generally be more expensive than others? What is your knowledge level, right? So I think your knowledge level of retro games, how to buy them, how to hunt for them, that is going to determine the route that you choose. So that's part one. Part two, another factor in deciding which path you should choose is what is your financial situation? Do you have an endless supply of money? Do you not have a budget? Is money not an obstacle for you? Because that also determines which is going to be the best path for you as well. Then you have time. How much time do you have to collect video games? Do you have 20 hours in a week, 30 hours in a week, or are you extremely busy, you don't have a lot of time, and you can only dedicate maybe 2 or 3 hours a week or even a month to buying retro games, right? So your knowledge, your money, your time, in my opinion, are the three biggest factors in determining which is going to be the best path and the best route for you to buy retro games, because everything that you see here was purchased in a variety of ways. Demon's Crest was a game that I picked up in a trade at a mom and pop shop. Elisa Dragoon was a complete in box. This complete in box copy was a game that I won doing a bid on eBay. So I won this in an eBay bid and I got it for below market value. Spike Out Battle Street was a game that I got on eBay. Again, same situation. Was able to this wasn't a bid, but I actually submitted an offer about 25% below the asking because it had been sitting for quite some time, and I was able to get the buyer to come down a considerable amount. He didn't give me my initial ask, but I was still able to get it for under market value. That's how I got that. Chibi Robo was a game that I got from GameStop, and that's another option. Sorry, I forgot to mention GameStop as well as another option for you to buy video games. We'll get into that in a second. But Chibi Robo was a game that I picked up at GameStop. Then you have another Mercari deal here where I was able to use some Mercari credit to buy this Game Boy Pocket. And then you have JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which was a purchase that I was just able to negotiate with a seller. I got lucky enough to run into a seller who was on his way into GameStop to sell a bunch of games. While I was there, I pretty much kind of let him know that I would be able to offer him a good amount for a lot of games. And we were able to negotiate a deal for a lot of games that he was getting ready to sell to GameStop, including that game. So you have a mix of options here, right? You've got a GameStop deal, eBay, Mercari, private seller, mom and pop shop trade, right? So there was a variety of ways that I got all these games, but I could have gotten all these games on eBay, or all these items here. I could have just went straight on eBay and purchased them. But not all these items would I have been able to get at a mom and pop shop, nor would I have been able to get all these items through Facebook Marketplace, right? So there's a time and a place for the opportunities that you'll find or that you'll have when you're game hunting. I think the best method or the best path for anyone hunting or buying retro video games to use is all of them. I think you should use all of these paths. There are going to be days where Mercari is your best option. There are going to be times where eBay is your best option. There's going to be times where you would benefit from going to a local GameStop and seeing what they have in stock. Perhaps you have time and you want to go to a retro gaming convention because you really want a copy of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which isn't a game that you see every day. Maybe a convention is going to be the best spot for you. I think using all the tools and avenues at your disposal is going to be the best route, with the exception of one, in my opinion, and that's Amazon. I say that again because Amazon is going to be the most expensive way for you to build a retro gaming collection. Now, a lot of people will say, and this is the feedback that I've gotten, is that, well, Amazon is the way that people can protect themselves from scams. There's so many scams on eBay, there's so many this, there's so many that. Um, to me, that is not a good enough excuse to pay 50%, 60% more for an item because you are afraid of getting scammed. My suggestion to anyone who's looking to make the purchase is do your research. Do your research before you make the purchase. Get informed. Become knowledgeable. If you don't know about how a particular game is supposed to look or what the packaging should look like, go to your local mom and pop shop. Talk to the store owners. Most mom and pop shop store owners are more than willing to talk to you about retro video games. In fact, it excites them. So if you go into a store and you say, hey man, I was really interested in picking up a copy of Misadventures of Trombone, and I'm looking at this eBay listing. What do you think? Take the listing that you're looking at online, whether it be on eBay or Mercari, and show it to someone at a mom and pop shop and get their opinion. Say, hey, well, how do you think this looks? Do you think this looks legit? Do you think this looks like a good deal? What do you think about the seller? Get their opinion. There are people out there that'll be more than happy to help you with your retro game collecting journey, especially again at mom and pop shops. YouTube is also another way that you can get informed, right? There's a lot of videos that show you how to spot fake games, how to check your games, what to look out for when using eBay or when using Mercari, or even when you're using Facebook Marketplace, even GameStop, because they can sell fake games from time to time, right? Like no store or avenue is perfect. They all have their positives and they all have their negatives. But to me, the Amazon route is the overwhelming negative, with the only real positive being that you can, I guess, somewhat be sure that you won't be, I guess, quote unquote, scammed. But even that isn't foolproof because I've seen people purchase fake games from Amazon as well, right? So Amazon isn't perfect when it comes to ensuring the quality and authenticity of all the items that's sold on Amazon. It's not foolproof either. But that's what a lot of people who purchase on Amazon, that's what they bank on. And in my opinion, it's a little bit of a lazy way of collecting. I could see maybe a mom, a dad, a grandma who doesn't have the time or patience or isn't planning on building a collection. So maybe they don't want to do all the research it takes to learn how to properly purchase retro games. I could see them making a one-time purchase on Amazon, but using Amazon to buy and build a collection to me just is not smart. Like I said, you've got Facebook Marketplace, you've got Instagram, you've got yard sales, you've got flea markets, you've got swap meets, you've got pawn shops, you've got GameStop, you've got mom and pop shops. You've got so many different avenues that you can use, and there is a strong retro gaming community filled with people who are more than willing to share their knowledge with you. I'm telling you right now, if there's anything a game collector loves more than collecting games, it's talking about them, right? Like they love to talk about them, they love to share about them, they love to share knowledge. That's the beauty of the retro gaming community. Um, that's the beauty of the collecting community. Now, the reseller community might be a little bit different because they're in competition with one another. If they share their trade secrets, that's money out of their pocket. But collectors don't care about that crap. They just care about the game, and they care about people being able to build the collections that they want and enjoy the games that they want to enjoy. So again, in my opinion, just to sum this all up, right? Because again, I got feedback and I want to make sure that I'm being clear. You have to apply context to everything that you do, and you have to apply context to the discussion. I think each avenue, in my opinion, with the exception of GameStop, not GameStop, Amazon, each avenue with the exception of Amazon to me is a great option to explore. The only thing with Facebook Marketplace and Instagram deals is I would not do deals at night because that's just dumb, especially going to sketchy areas that you're not familiar with. That's also dumb. So you have to understand that with the Facebook Marketplace stuff, yeah, you might get deals and you might get good deals and they might be cheap, but you also run that risk as well. There's risk with everything that you do. There's risk and there's reward. And usually the options that are more expensive pose less risk of physical harm, less risk of getting scammed, less risk of all sorts of things. So, I mean, if you're looking at it and from a sense of risk and not being scammed, I guess Amazon probably poses the best option in terms of not getting scammed. Then maybe mom and pop shops are behind that. And then maybe GameStop is behind that. Everything else to me just kind of falls in a bucket altogether. I mean, yard sales, thrift stores, pawn shops, I mean, the chances of you finding fake stuff at any of those venues or going down any of those avenues is, in my opinion, roughly around the same, right? GameStop has been known in the past to sell a lot of fake games, but I think since they've taken their retro initiative a little bit more seriously, they've started to tighten up, but they still allow certain fake Pokemon games to slip in here and there. So, and what I've noticed is that even if certain store managers know they have a fake Pokemon, they'll continue to keep it in their inventory and try to sell it because they're afraid to shrink it out and for the store to take that hit in having to shrink that game. And by shrink, I mean lose revenue. They basically have to, they're losing the dollar amount that they would have made on that game by shrinking it out as being defective or being fake. So you have things that you have to deal with. There's issues that you'll have to deal with on every front and on every end. But again, this video was really just more so for those who in 2025 are thinking, man, how do I build a retro gaming collection? I'm really not sure. What should I do? I say, again, explore your options. All of these paths can work. It just depends on how much time you have, how much knowledge you have, and how much money you have. And the biggest thing, and this is the thing that I was saving for the end, the biggest thing is your location. Where you are at in the world matters, right? If you are in a big city, certain options are more ready and available to you. And there's a different level of competition as opposed to being someone who lives maybe in a very rural part of the country where there's not a lot of people around you, not a lot of sellers, not a lot of collectors, there's no retro game stores. You maybe have one GameStop within a 60-mile radius. Your hunting experience is gonna be completely different. And this is where relationships come into play. Relationships can be your saving grace, whether you're in a big city or in a small town. The more relationships that you can build with resellers, with store owners, with collectors, the more you can get into gaming forums within your town, the more you can network for your hobby, is the more opportunities you're going to give yourself to find good deals and find great games at reasonable prices. So your location and your network are also two very big factors when considering how you're going to navigate finding retro games in 2025. So again, finally, just to recap for the last time, it's your time, it's your money, it's your knowledge, it's your location, and it's your network. Those 5 things will allow you to navigate game hunting using any of the avenues that I've mentioned in this video, whether it's Facebook Marketplace, online stores, mom and pop shops, all that stuff. But again, at the end of the day, avoid Amazon. You do not need it. It's the last stop. It's the last resort. It should be the last place you go to. I mean, I would only go there if I couldn't find the game I was looking for anywhere else in the universe. Like, seriously, that's where I'm at with that. But you guys let me know your thoughts. What have I missed? I tried to make this as comprehensive as I could without having it go over 25 minutes. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, and I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.